Hey everyone, today we're going to go through our NCL Breakaway cruise. We're going to tell you the highs, the lows, and everything that kind of happened. We're going to give you a review and our debrief just off the ship. Got off the ship less than 24 hours ago, so everything's still super fresh in my mind. So I'm going to go through a few different things. We're going to go through embarkation, service, entertainment, food, the itinerary, the ship itself, and disembarkation. Thank you so much for watching. We would love for you to come along, hit the little subscribe button, and join us on this journey in cruising. We put out a cruise news video every day. And speaking of that, let's get into it. Hey everyone, John here from Bite Size Cruises. Welcome back to the channel. Today we're giving you a little bit of a review and our little debrief right off the ship. I always like to do these pretty quickly, record them at least pretty quickly so that everything is super fresh in my mind. First off, let me say, as per normal, a lot of what I'm going to get into is probably nitpicky. So one of the things I always like to give the caveat, we're not one of those channels that comes on and says, you're not going to believe what happened, or this was terrible, or we're going to, this was awful and this was this. We don't do that. I'm just going to be completely transparent with you. I know I would get more views if I did do that, but it's not what we're going to do. We're travel agents at heart here. So what we're trying to do and our goal here is just to give you the best information possible so that you understand, like, is this a good ship for you to go on, or is this something that you should miss out or skip out on? So let's get into it with that little caveat of information there. Let me just say that I had a really good time. Meg, myself, and AJ, the three of us went on this cruise. We all stayed in studio cabins. Interior studio. Now you have to give that caveat because they have balcony studios, but we stayed within the studio proper, the studio space there, and just putting it out there, we had a really great time. Everything else we're going to get into is going to be little nitpicky and highs and lows things that we're going to talk about. First off, let's talk about embarkation. So we had an 11 a.m. check-in time at the port. Doesn't mean that's when you're getting on the ship, just means that's when you can actually check in at the port. So we got our Uber or our taxi actually, from the hotel around 10:20. We were at the port by like 10:35. It was very quick to get there. Here's where we had a little bit of confusion. It was a horrendous downpour. As you'll see in the vlogs, it was lightning, thunder, and just teeming rain for like an hour, of course. So we get there, we get dropped off, and we go to the doors where you go in, and they tell us, can't come this way. Keep in mind, this is all covered. So we get out of the car, we're covered. We go up to the doors, and they say, nope, there's people leaving this way. You have to go around to the other side, which means we have to go through the rain on the street where there's like huge puddles. It's pouring. It's horrendous. And then go in that way. So whatever, you got to do what you got to do, right? So we go around that way, and all the people are coming out that way. So it was much harder to get in that way than it would have been to get in the other way. But again, what are you going to do? So we get in, soaking wet, all good. From there on, it was super smooth, right? We walked right in, checked right in, went and sat down. By this time, it was like 11, and I would say within 10 or 15 minutes, they started the boarding process. We are Sapphire, so I can, Meg and AJ can come with me because they're gold and silver respectively, and I have Sapphire. So we just jumped on the ship. We were on the ship right away, and we headed to the Teppanyaki. No, we actually headed to Headliners Comedy Club to make our dinner reservations. Super smooth, in and out, and then we're wandering the ship. Caveat, if you are going on an NCL cruise, please keep in mind that since probably about 6 or 7 months ago, NCL, the rooms, generally speaking, rooms are ready by about 1 o'clock on most cruise lines. NCL, the rooms are not ready until 2:30 now in the afternoon. Slightly inconvenient, but it is what it is. Again, nitpicky things, right? So it's a little change where you're starting to see the cutbacks. And a lot of this video is going to be, had a really good time, but, right? There are cutbacks. We're seeing those cutbacks, and yet the price isn't dropping. The price is going up. So, yeah, a little bit of a stunk that you couldn't get to the rooms till 2:30. So we had lunch at Ocean's, great, and then we wandered around a little bit, like you do on the first day. And then at about 2 o'clock, we went to the studio lounge, had some coffee, met some really nice people, and then we're in our rooms by 2:30 in order to get changed and get ready for dinner and everything like that. It is a quick turnaround if you are like, if you have early dinner or anything planned. Luckily we didn't. We went to dinner later that night, so it was all good. So now let's talk about the ship itself. The ship itself looks great. This is the third time that I was on Breakaway. I was on it for the inaugural, like the fourth sailing. Then I was on it a year later in 2014. And now 10 years later, I'm on it again. Ship looks beautiful. It does look like they updated some of the things. The studio lounge does look, I would say everything there looks a little dated, a little futuristic, especially after coming off Encore, where I thought the studio lounge was just beautiful and the rooms were beautiful. It's also a much newer ship. But the ship was in great shape. I didn't see any like disrepair anywhere. Everything looked nice. The carpeting looked nice. The outdoor spaces looked nice. Our rooms, I will say, like there was a lot of like water damage on the floor, and the studio lounge smelled the whole cruise a little sewagey. So I'm guessing they had some type of a leak or some kind of water damage in there. So it didn't smell great. But otherwise, everywhere else on the ship, it looked great, and I didn't smell anything or there wasn't anything weird. So from that perspective, pretty good. Embarkation, good other than the confusion getting in. The ship looks great. No real complaints about the ship itself at all. Service, as always, service on cruises I always find to be outstanding. The staff is amazing. A little bit goes a long way, right? So we always try to like learn some new phrases in either Indonesian or Philippine or, Tagalog for the Philippine crew. Because 66%, they said, we were talking to people on the cruise, 66% of the staff of Norwegian Cruise Line is from the Philippines, which is really cool. It's a really cool fact. And there are a lot of Indonesians as well, so we kind of try to learn their language a little bit. And I think that always kind of goes a long way. It makes people really shocked or excited or happy when you say thank you or good morning or whatever in those languages. So that's really fun. So we try to do that, and as always, I feel like the service is great. Here's again the but. So in the rooms, my room steward was only able to clean my room twice over the course of the week. Not his fault at all. So here's what happens now, right? They've raised the service fee to $20 a day, which is high. And then you kind of feel bad if you still don't tip. I know some people don't. I feel bad if I don't tip in addition to that. And I usually tip really well because they work really hard. But what has happened now is I think by raising those prices, NCL has kind of taken away the impetus or you feeling the need to tip more. You're already paying $140 more than your cruise in services and tips. And then I know like if I go to the bar and you're talking to somebody, you tip. If I go to specialty dining, I tip extra on top of the service charges that I've already paid. Remember, if you do a dining package, you're paying service charge on that. If you do a beverage package, you're paying service charge on that. So those are all tips that are hopefully going to somebody, right? So the beverage package has tips going to somebody. The food package has tips going to somebody. You're paying $20 a day. At the end of it, you're paying $300 in tips in addition to your cruise fare. So again, we're back to the why don't you just pay these people what they should be paid, and then we can tip them for extraordinary service, which is the way it should be. But I digress. So what happens now is basically there is, in the studios, it looked to me, and I could be wrong, looked to me like there was one room steward and like a helper for each floor. That's a lot of rooms. It's like 30 or 40 rooms, whatever it is. So what would happen is on several occasions, like port days, we would get up early. We were off the ship you could get off the ship by 7 or 8. I'm out of my room by 6 in the morning. So I leave my room at 6 in the morning. I go eat breakfast. We hang out. We do whatever our work is. Then we would get off the ship. Then we would get back on the ship around 2, 3 o'clock in the afternoon. I would go back to my room. My room's not done yet. Now we're going to take a quick nap or take a shower, do all those things, get ready. So I put my do not disturb on to do all that, to nap and do whatever. And then by the time we go out to dinner at night, they've moved on and they're doing something else. Now, to their credit, they do come back and check on you at some point. But at that point, I don't care if my room gets done. All I need is a fresh towel. I'm very neat, right? So nothing's out of place other than them just coming in and having to clean the bathroom, make the bed, right? So it's not a big deal to me. But that being said, 5 times over the course of a 7-day cruise, they didn't get to my room in a timely fashion. So I just didn't bother having it cleaned. I just said, no, I'm good. And then I still tipped the guy, which is fine. I'm not complaining about tipping him. I'm complaining about them pulling back on the amount of people that are doing the work, making the gratuities higher, and then not getting the same service level. They used to do 2 times a day, which I don't need 2 times a day, but 1 time a day is nice. Again, not the end of the world. Just bringing it up just so that you're aware. You may be a little more wanting for them to come to your room and clean things. Wasn't a big deal for me, but you definitely can see the degradation of service, right? The pulling back or the cutting back on service whilst prices and gratuities are going up. So I don't love that. But my room steward was great. He did a great job. Everything was really good. He's just can't get to that many rooms in the time where you would like him to. Now, would it be nice if they had like a schedule and they said to you, I know I've been on Royal and they've said to me like, hey, I'm only going to do your room 1 time a day now. Do you have a preference? Would you like me to do it in the morning or the evening? Now, I know it can't work for everybody. If everybody said the morning, they couldn't do it. But having something like that where you could pick a time or a general time of day would probably be helpful. But they don't do that, so just kind of keeping you informed there. Otherwise, the service everywhere else, especially dining, the bars, everything was great. I've heard complaints about people getting drinks. I generally don't go up to the bar to get a drink. The atrium bar tends to be a little bit more crowded. The pool bars seemed like they were crowded, but not like 3 or 4 people deep. Everything seemed to be accessible, and I didn't have a problem getting drinks at any time. So next up, let's talk about the food. I had 0 issues with the food. Everything was very good. We did not do a ton of specialty dining, which we generally do. We did teppanyaki, which, obviously we'll do a specialty dining review. We'll do a full food review. Meg and I did La Bistro. AJ and I did La Cucina. We did teppanyaki, and then one night we had sushi. Otherwise, we ate in the Manhattan Room twice for dinner, and we ate in Oceans once for dinner and a bunch of times for lunch and or breakfast. Ate in the buffet for lunch and or breakfast as well, and once in the main dining room for breakfast. In all of those experiences, thumbs up. No issues. Everything was great. We'll get into the food in our food reviews. Next up, let's talk about the itinerary. Let's keep things positive for a little bit. The itinerary was fantastic. We went to Cozumel. We went to Honduras, Roatan, Honduras. We went to Belize, which is Harvest Key, which is a private island. And we went to Costa Maya. All of those islands were great. We had a blast. In Cozumel, I would recommend doing some type of an excursion. But in Costa Maya, the port, if you don't want to do anything, if you want to do excursions, by all means, be adventurous. But if you just wanted to like chill at a pool, there are 2 pools in Costa Maya in the ports. They were incredible. Belize at Harvest Key, one of my favorite private islands now. It was the first time I was there. It was excellent. So much to do in the port. So many things going on there. And then Honduras, same thing. If you wanted to do something pretty adventurous, that's a good place to do it. Otherwise, there's like a small pool and a little bit of beaches going on there in the port. So there you go. All of those were great. I love this itinerary. Would 100% do it again. So all good there. Now let's get into the last 2 things, entertainment and the disembarkation. Entertainment, it's a little bit of a travesty is what I'll say. So keep in mind, if you are on this to go do this great itinerary, to do wild things during the day, and when you come back you just want to eat dinner and chill, this ship is perfect for you. Because what I've noticed is, first of all, Burn the Floor is the primary show. I don't know if you've ever seen Burn the Floor, but it's the secondary show on Getaway, or it was. I think it just ended on Getaway. As a secondary show, I don't love Burn the Floor, but some people like it. It's fine, whatever. You have your things. It's a little bit of singing and mostly like ballroom, Latin ballroom. I do like some ballroom. I love dancing. I do like some ballroom. That show just never captures my attention. And I checked with AJ and Meg and all them as well. Same thing, right? It's like you'll go to it, 45 minutes, whatever, it's in and out. But that being the primary show, I mean, it's just, to me, it's not a good headline show to begin with. And then You have Sid Norman's Poorhouse, which I love, and it's an amazing thing. It's going to be the same thing I talked about on Encore with the Cavern Club. I love that it's intimate. I love that it's small and you get that like awesome feel. Here's the problem. When the headliner show is not great and there's not a lot of things going on in the theater, the big theater, it's almost impossible to go to the Sid Norman shows. We went to the first one. We got in line. AJ got in line at 8 o'clock and we were in the back of the line. The show started at 9:30. The rest of the week, the line started around 7 for a 9:30 show. While you're on vacation, the idea of waiting in line 2.5 hours to go to a show is completely outrageous. These shows are great. This is not Taylor Swift in concert. This is not Coldplay. This is not U2 at the Sphere in Las Vegas. I shouldn't have to wait in line for 2.5 hours to go to a show. Now, how do we fix this? I don't know. I said it after my Encore thing. Maybe we do reservations for the Poorhouse and the Cavern Club, just like everything else where you get a reservation slot. You know, if 300 or 400 people can, I don't even think it's that many, but if like 300 people can see one of those shows and there's 5 of them, that's not even a third of it's just about a third of the ship that would be able to see a show in there. So at least having reservations where you could only go once, you can go to one show, which kind of stinks, but like having it be first come, first serve is really tough in there. Or, and this is my example, what they did on Encore, they had a couple Beatles shows in the main theater, which was great. Now, if you took a couple of these Sid Norman shows and put them in the theater, I get it, it's not that like, you know, atmosphere, that like fun, lovable, tight atmosphere that you would want for those shows, but at least you would have like some singing and dancing shows, which, you know, they're sorely lacking on the ship. So I don't know what the fix is, because it might ruin the show if you put it in the theater, and you certainly can't ask that group of 4 or 5 people to do 7 shows. I think they did 4 or 5 anyway. But having them do like a 7:30 and a 9:30 every night, you can't. Nobody can sing that much. It's not going to happen. So I'm not sure. And then Howl at the Moon, awesome. Same thing, very crowded. You're like fighting to get in and out of there. The good thing with Howl at the Moon is it's generally 8:30 to like midnight. So it's a long time with people coming in and out. So that works. Obviously, you can't put that in the theater. It doesn't make any sense. And then you had comedians. You had 2 comedians. They were fine, right? They weren't great. They weren't not great, but they were in the theater a couple times. And again, like how many times are you going to go to the theater to see the same comedians, magicians? Did I say magicians before? I have no idea. So, and then they were in, you know, the little headliners too. So, and that's it really, right? So they have Wheel of Fortune, which is fine, I think, if you go once or twice, but you definitely don't need to go see that. It's on almost every ship now. And you have to pay if you actually want to play or be part of it. So I don't love that. I know like Price is Right and the other big game shows like Family Feud on Carnival, Price is Right that's on Prima, Pressure Luck on Viva. Those are great and they're super interactive. Wheel of Fortune just doesn't do it for me. And it doesn't get super crowded because of the fact that you have to pay. So I kind of feel like it's blah. And I know that that's replacing another big show, but it just doesn't cut it for me. And then, you know, you have entertainers around the ship, and we'll dig into the entertainment. We'll do a full entertainment review. I just don't think that there's enough going on in the atrium shows. Again, just like every other cruise that I complain about on NCL, the atrium's too small for the shows that are in there. So maybe if you put the Love and Marriage show and Deal or No Deal or all these big game shows in the theater, maybe that would help, and it would push some people into the theater or to different places so that more people could go to Sid Norman's or to Howl at the Moon or whatever it is. I don't know. I'm certainly not going to solve these problems. And for me, just being nitpicky and complaining about it, I don't want to complain about it. I had a really good time. We did get to see one Sid Norman show. We tried to go a couple times. We couldn't get in. We did go to Howl at the Moon a bunch of times because it was the only thing that we can get into. Other than that, there wasn't a lot going on the ship. So, like, if you'd missed one of those shows, you're done for the night. There's nothing really going on unless you just want to, like, kind of go stand somewhere and hang out. The theme parties, you know, are pretty normal for NCL. There's some people up there. They don't get super crowded. They're fun for like a half an hour, 40 minutes. And they're late. They're at 10:30 at night. So that 7 p.m. to like 10:30 time frame, there was just nothing going on. A little disappointing, but again, we had a great time. Don't get me wrong. All of these things are like first world nitpicky problems, not big problems, not a reason why you shouldn't go on Breakaway. You know, it could be perfect ship for you. In my opinion, I would not go on Breakaway again unless they changed the entertainment or did something, or it was a super cool itinerary. Like going somewhere like the Greek Isles where I don't care what's going on the ship. Get it? That's my kind of trade-off. Like going out of New Orleans, going to this like Caribbean itinerary, I feel like you need a little bit of a punch with entertainment. Just my 2 cents. Last but not least, disembarkation, complete and utter chaos. So I was just on Encore. I was very excited. Disembarkation on Encore could not have been smoother, right? And that's a bigger ship, slightly bigger than Breakaway and Getaway. I was telling AJ and Meg, like, it was great. I did self-assist. I waited like a half an hour, so I wasn't in the long line. And then I just walked down and walked off the ship. So we had planned to do that. We were docked by like 7. Supposed to start at 7:30. They never made an announcement that it was starting. And when we looked, it was a nightmare of people lined up. They kept announcing, please don't come down, which never works. So by the time we went to go down, it was 8:15. And it was a nightmare. It took us an hour and 15 minutes to get off the ship because we had to like fight our way down. And at that point, everyone is yelling and screaming at staff, which happens at almost every cruise now. It seems to me like half of the ship wants to get off at self-assist. And then they're dragging 6 pieces of luggage down the steps, or everyone gets off with self-assist because they just want to get off the ship. I don't know why you're in a hurry to leave unless you have an early flight or unless you have somewhere to be. But half of the people getting off and then waiting for their luggage. So they're not even self-assist. There has to be a better system to figure this out. If you do carry on, you self-assist getting on, you get a ticket for self-assist getting off. Or they go back to the way it used to be. Remember back in the day there was only so many tags of each color. Maybe we go back to the other way of like, you make a reservation for disembarkation. If you have an early flight, you have to put that in when you check in. If you have a flight before noon, which you shouldn't, you put it in, like I have an 11:30 flight. Maybe it's the only flight that goes to like Fargo, North Dakota. That's fine. We're going to Philadelphia. If we're going to a big city, there are other flights. So maybe they do something like that where there's a reservation where if you have an early flight, you get early checkout. You know, if you have someplace to go, you can make a reservation. You get off at 7:30. And then there's a bunch of people. And then everybody from that check-in meets at like the Manhattan room. You swipe your card, yep, you're good to go, and then they escort that group off. And then maybe the 8 o'clocks meet in the H room, maybe the 8:30s meet somewhere else, and so on and so forth, so that it's, okay, we have 300 slots for each of these disembarkation times. We have 7:30, 7:45, 8, 8:15, 8:30, whatever it is, right? And then you do it that way. But having 2,500 or 3,000 people just try to walk off the ship at 7:30 in the morning does not work. And then they were obviously running a little bit behind. So when you factor in a delay, which of course happens, it's complete chaos. And then everyone's yelling and screaming at the staff. Like I said, people are throwing and yanking their luggage down the steps. Same thing that happened on Carnival when we were running late. That was way worse, by the way. So, yeah, something needs to be fixed there on disembarkation. When it works, like Encore, it was fine. There was a huge line in the beginning, but it moved very quickly. And on this ship, it did not. We had flights at noon, and it was touch and go. By the time we got out, by the time we got a taxi, but again, this is what happens. We paid the price for being rule followers, where we like follow the rules. They said, don't come down until you're called. And then they never called. So we had to just walk down eventually. And then, of course, we deal with the ramifications of everybody else just not caring about the rules. So again, one of my big things on cruises is, if you're going to have rules, they should be enforced. Otherwise, just don't bother having the rules, right? It's like the old, like, 30 minutes, if you leave your stuff on your unattended on your pool chair for 30 minutes, it's going to be moved. No, it's not. No one ever moves it, right? You have to wear certain things to dinner every night. No, you don't. They don't enforce it. Kids aren't allowed in this area. Doesn't matter. They don't enforce it, right? So just either don't have those rules and just say, look, the ship docks at 7. We'll open the doors at 7:30. Figure it out, right? So for the most part, my idea at this point is I'm going to book much later flights and just wait until the end. I'll be the last person off the ship. I don't know what the big rush is if you don't have an early flight or if you don't have somewhere to be. I don't know what the big rush is with everybody just trying to get off the ship. And go to breakfast, enjoy yourself, and take your time to get off. That's it. That's enough of my rant on this cruise. Otherwise, like I said, the itinerary was great. We had a really nice time. If you enjoy food, if you enjoy wine, if you kind of enjoy like a little bit of live music, the ship looks beautiful. I love the waterfront. All the restaurants were great. The ice bar was fun. Those things that are going on. So yeah, we had a really good time. Again, I don't think I would go on Breakaway again unless it was going to someplace unique, but we certainly didn't have a bad time. And I certainly don't let these things ruin the time that we had. I had a great time. Everything was fun. We had a blast all 7 days. There were just parts of the cruise where we were bored or we didn't have a ton going on, but we made our own fun. We played card games. We did a bunch of things, right? There's always something to do. So that's it. That's my debrief. This was way longer than I thought it was going to be, but I wanted to be honest and transparent and give you all the information so that at least you have all of that information if you want to make a decision whether or not Breakaway is right for you. I'm going to do a full video on who the ship's for, and we'll dig into it more there. And the vlogs are coming. I don't know what I was going to say there, but the vlogs will be coming up in the next few days. So enjoy those. Let me know what you think. And thank you so much for watching. If you made it till the end, God bless you. I appreciate you listening to my rants. And we'll see everybody tomorrow. Thanks so much. Bye.